There, Mr. Garcia here. This is another way you can copy the notes for section 1-1, okay, which is vocabulary. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to walk you through what you need to do to make this help you keep your notes organized, okay? So I'm going to zoom in and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. All right, so you're going to need a ruler and either pencil or pen, whatever you prefer. Okay, so what I've done is I've counted 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this section. I need 5 rows. Okay, so there's 1, and then I'm going to do the rest are going to be 7 lines each. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So then I'm going to draw another line here. Okay, so the rest of them is going to be 7 lines. So for the sake of time, I paused the video, and this was 4 lines. This is 7, 7, and 7. Okay, and we need those 5 rows because since you don't have access to a printer, I don't want you to think that you're going to be unable to copy the notes. This is the way they would look if you had access to a printer. Okay, so you would have to print this template and then cut it and then do the flips. But if you don't have a printer, that's fine. We can also do it this way. So let's see, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 3 vertical lines. Okay, so I'm going to have 5 rows by 3 columns. So let's see on this one here. To help me keep this as organized as possible, I'm going to use a ruler and I'm going to maybe do some markings here. Okay, and if you don't get this perfect, that's fine. I'm just trying to make this as organized as possible to help keep your notes neat and organized. So I'm going to, let's see, so I'm going from here. Okay, so I'm going to mark 1 here and then I'm going to go 2.5 inches. So 1, 2, and 1/2. Okay, and then the same thing here. This will be 1, 2, and 1/2, and that's all I need. Okay, and you'll see how this is going to help you with the notes. So I'm going to go to the bottom of the page. Okay, so I'm scrolling this. I'm going to go all the way down, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So let's see. All right, right there. Okay, so this will be, and let me start with 1 so you're able to follow. Okay, right there. Okay, so 1, so I'm starting from here. Okay, 1, this is 1, 2.5 inch, 2 inches and 1/2, and then do another 2.5 inches. So this is 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, and 2.5. And I made those markings there. Okay, what I've done is I flipped the paper. Okay, so I can connect these 2 markings here. And I'm going to go all the way up. Well, I don't have to go all the way up, but I'm going to go all the way up on this one. Okay, so there's going to be 1. And then I'm going to do another one here. I'm going to connect these 2. And notice that on this one I didn't go all the way up, and there's a reason for that. Okay, and I'm going to go to the next one. And there you have it. Okay, so now we have the template, and we're basically going to be able to do the same thing as with the flips. So once you're finished, this is what your paper should look like. Okay, next, I'm not going to be writing on the video. I'm going to be uncovering the definitions. Okay, because if I write, it's going to take me a long time, and I mean it might take me even over 30 minutes to do the whole lesson. So I'm going to bring next what I'm going to, the way I'm going to do the notes, and they'll be already on the paper. I'll just be uncovering them. Okay, start by writing 1-1. This is lesson 1-1, and this is basic geometry vocabulary. So go ahead and write that down. Okay. Now, once you've written that down, I'm going to be scrolling this paper so I can uncover the first term. So this will be your introduction to geometry vocabulary. Now, some of these terms you have seen before, but we're going to get into more details here. Okay, so the first one is a point. And there's an example of a point. That's a point right there. And I just added a B so I can name this point. Okay, in math, we use a lot of symbols and notation to communicate, amongst mathematicians, so that we can make it simple and easier to explain concepts, okay? So in this case, that's a point, so I'm gonna name it B. It's like saying I'm Mexican, but my name is, I don't know, let's say Willie in this case, okay? So I have that in common. I'm a point, but I also have my name. So in this case, this will be point B. And I hope that, I know it's a cheesy way to say it, but I'm just trying to make a point here. So the name is point B. Why? Because you see a B. Otherwise, you just see a point and you wouldn't know what it means. So this is point B. Now this is one of the undefined terms, okay? And this helps us represent locations. It has no size or thickness. So let's go on to the next term. The next term, and I apologize for this mess. Trust me, I had a hard time trying to get this ready and make it as simple as possible for you guys. Okay, so the next term is a line, okay? This line here, notice I have the line, it has arrows on the ends, and then I plotted 2 points. This is point C and this is point D. The reason I did that is because this will help us name the line. And also notice I have a cursive end here. So if I were to name this line, the line could be named CD, but notice a symbol above it. It's a line above those 2 letters. If I don't see that symbol, I don't know what it is. Okay, so this is just notation. Or I can also name it DC. So CD or DC, line CD or line DC. And I can also name it line N because of this N here. Okay, so those are 3 different ways to name this line. And this is also an undefined term. It has infinite length and it has infinite number of points. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is a plane. So I just drew something like a parallelogram here, okay? And notice that it has points, so 1, 2, and 3, and the 3 points are not on, you couldn't draw a line through the 3 points. So this plane, we can name that plane by those 3 points on it, so that's gonna be plane ABC, or by the cursive R on this corner, so this will be plane R. So those are two different ways to name this plane. Next, this is also an undefined term, okay? And this is just a flat surface that extends infinitely in all directions and must contain at least 3 points, which is what we have here. Okay, so let's go on to the next row. All right, the next term is line segment. Okay, so this is a line segment here. And notice that I have endpoint Y and endpoint Z. So to name this segment, we could name it Y, Z, or ZY. Either one of 2 is fine. And notice that I have a segment on top of the 2 letters. That tells me that it's a segment. If you have a line, then you would say line YZ, but this is not a line because it has 2 endpoints. So this one does have length and has 2 endpoints. So this is defined. This is not like a point, a line, or a plane. This is actually defined because we can measure it. So that's why it's a defined term. Let's go on to the next one. The next one here is a ray. Okay, how do we name it? Has endpoint X and it goes in the direction of Y. And we can only name this ray XY. Why? Because X is the endpoint. We can't name this ray YX because that means that this will be going in this direction, which is not the case. Okay, so be careful with that. So X, Y, and it's a ray. And notice that I have an arrow and it goes from X to Y. So that's very important too. And this is a part of a line and it has 1 endpoint. So this is also a defined term. The next one is an angle. Okay, so notice I have an angle here. I have point M, point N, and point Q, and I also have a 1 inside of the angle. So to name the angle, we could name it M and O. So that means M and O. We could also name it O and M, okay? Or we could also name it angle 1. So notice that N is in the middle. So pay attention to that fact. N is in the middle because that's the vertex point, okay? It cannot go anywhere else. So this angles have 1 vertex and it's always the middle letter, okay? And I just mentioned that, and this is formed by 2 intersecting rays, which are called sides, so the sides of the angle. Let's go on to the next terms. Okay, so this is the next term, collinear points. Notice that this is a line and the points are on the same line. That's what collinear means, points together on the same line. Very simple. Let's go on to the next term. The next one is coplanar. Coplanar is anything together on the same plane. So we have a point, another point. So we have 3 points, we have a line, we have a ray, and they are on the same plane. So think of it this way. You're standing or sitting down on top of the floor, right? And I'm assuming there's other furniture around you. So we could say that you are coplanar with the furniture. It might be a chair, it might be a desk, it might be whatever is on the floor. All of those objects along with you are coplanar. So that's just an example of what that means. Okay, you're on the same plane. All right, let's go to the next term. So this one here, I know it's a lot, okay, but it's something that you've seen also before. Acute angle. It's an angle that is less than 90 degrees. Don't forget that symbol in math means less than, okay? So less than 90 degrees. Right angle, it's an angle that equals exactly or has a measure of exactly 90 degrees. Obtuse angle is an angle that has a measure measures greater than or more than 90 degrees. Okay, and a straight angle is exactly 180 degrees. So it's an angle that equals 180 degrees. Let's go on to the next terms. Okay, this one is for parallel lines. Okay, and I'm going to introduce some notation here also, and I think you've seen it before in Algebra 1. Okay, so I have this line L and this line N. Okay. And notice those 2 arrows on both lines, that means that the lines are parallel. And notation, so if you want to say that 2 lines are parallel and you don't want to write parallel lines, you can just say, okay, the name of this line is L, the name of this line is N, and then this symbol means that L, the line L, is parallel to line N. And these are lines that never intersect. And I'm going to introduce you to lines that never intersect, that are not parallel, today, okay? And I think you haven't seen that concept before, so this will be your introduction to it. So let's go on to the next term. The next term is something that you already know also, which is perpendicular lines. We know that this line G, so this is line G and this is line H, they are perpendicular because they form right angles at the intersection. So if you want to say that 2 lines are perpendicular, this is how we say that using notation. So line G, that symbol, the upside down T, means perpendicular, and line G is perpendicular to line H. So these are lines that intersect to form right angles. Okay, now here comes a new term that you haven't seen before, I believe. These are skew lines. So before you only knew about parallel lines and perpendicular lines, but now you also will know about skew lines. So skew lines are lines that lie on different planes. They do not intersect, okay? So look at this line is here, and this line here is on this plane. So this line is on this plane, and this one is on this plane. And as you can see, they will not intersect. Think of it this way. I'm on the first floor, you're on the second floor. You might be right above me, but we're not going to intersect because we're not on the same floor, okay? And I hope that kind of helps you visualize and understand this definition or term. And we're almost finished with the lesson. So this is adjacent angles. Adjacent means next to. Okay, that's what adjacent means. So when you see the word adjacent, means next to. So notice we have an angle here, the big angle, and then we have angle 1 and angle 2. These 2 angles are adjacent because they have this side in common, this ray in common. Okay, so these are 2 angles with a common vertex. So they have this vertex in common and a common side, and they have this side or ray in common. Okay, all right, let's go on to the next term. The next term is an angle bisector. Bi means 2, sector means it's going to cut it's going to cut the angle in half. So this here, this is an angle bisector. Okay, this ray. Why? Because it cuts the big angle in half, and these 2 arcs here, so this arc and this arc, that means that the angles are congruent. So whenever you see those marks, understand that these 2 angles are congruent, which means they are equal. Okay, so an angle bisector is a ray that divides an angle into 2 congruent, this is the symbol for congruent, adjacent angles. Okay, so 2 angles that are next to each other and are congruent because of the angle bisector. All right, the last term, this one here, the midpoint. So we have segment AB, and then we have point M. Now these marks here, those 2 marks or hash marks, that means that this point is cutting the segment in half, making AM, segment AM, and segment AB equal or congruent, okay? Congruent or equal to each other. So this is a point that divides a segment into two congruent segments. So I hope that this, and I'm sorry I couldn't see that. Okay, so again, this is point A, and this is B, and M is in the middle, so that makes it a midpoint, cuts it in half, and this means that AM and MB are equal. So again, this is just a point that divides a segment into two congruent segments. Again, I hope this made helped you copy the notes in case you don't have access to a printer, and I'll see you or talk to you in the next lesson. Bye.